Perfect. Good evening, familia, and happy Engineers Week. I'd like to start by introducing myself. My name is Jada Rivera Rocho, and I will be your host tonight. I want to officially welcome you to our engineers panel, careers you've never heard of for engineers. And this event was made possible thanks to SHPE UIC and SHPE Region 6. I also like to thank my amazing team and co-hosts, Karina Dan and Jocelyn Ortega, that helped me put together the logistics for this event. I will be moderating the conversation with these four amazing engineers and friends from completely different backgrounds and industries. Before I let each panelist introduce themselves, I would like to share the purpose of this panel. Next slide, please. And the next one, please. Thank you. I wanted to create this event because personally, I've been in the workforce since 2016, and I haven't seen a lot of representation of Latinx in the engineering workforce. And I wanted to bring more awareness as of what is going on with the industry and hopefully inspire some Latinx to join STEM-based careers. Hopefully by the end of tonight, you will all feel inspired by these amazing engineers and take away tangible tips on where to start moving efforts to make your career moves. With all this being said, let's get officially started with this panel. Next slide, please. So first, we're gonna get to know our panelists, of course. And our first questions will be, what is your name, your industry, and current position? And finally, how long you've been in the industry? I would like to start with Larissa Acevedo, career empowerment coach, and also she's representing General Motors.
Oh, thank you so much for having me and everybody on the team. I'm really excited to kind of hear everybody's story. Thank you for the opportunity. I was like getting excited to just like, oh man, I remember when I was a student, and this is exactly what I would do, come to a panel like this to just hear about other people's career, and that's how I started. So my name is Larissa Acevedo. I work in the automotive industry by day, and then at night I'm a career coach for STEM, for people in STEM, especially women of color. So how long I've been in the industry now, I'm about 3.5 years into the automotive as a full-time employee, and actually, funny story, almost the same amount of time career coaching. So we can get into that later, but thank you so much for having me, and I'm excited to kind of talk to all of you and help answer any questions you may have.
Absolutely. Thank you, Larissa. Now, I'd like the Smith Group panelist to introduce herself, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gail Obama-Miguel. I am, I guess this is my first year with Smith Group. I've only been working with Smith Group for about 7 months. I just graduated in May, and I'm an entry-level electrical engineer there.
Thank you, Angel. Now into our third panelist is from Accenture.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Ivan Claudio. I come from Puerto Rico, and my industry is actually consulting. Even though I am an industrial engineer, I decided to go to the consulting industry, which I have been for almost 4 years now. So time has flown by, but for almost 4 years, I'm happy to be here. Looking forward to all your questions, and thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. And last but not least, our Cargill panelist.
Hey there, can you hear me fine? I'm on my phone, so it's kind of a little rough.
Yes, we can hear you.
Gotcha. So I'm Xavier Guzman. I'm a mechanical engineer. I graduated from UIC this past semester, but I've been working for Cargill for the past year. It's going to be my 15 months this coming up month. And I've worked in corn milling. I've worked in food production. I'm a production management engineer. So if you have any kind of like Lucerna products, if you have anything related to sugars, any of your vegetable oils, if you've ever had fast food, I mean, I'm guessing you've had McDonald's, Burger King, anything like that. My location actually makes most of the oil that goes into those businesses. We make all the fryer oil. So that's what my job is, pretty much supervising all that.
Thanks, Javier. Thank you all for introducing yourselves. I would like to to keep the flow and the consistency, just to keep answering the questions in the same order that you all introduce yourselves. So now I will start asking you some industry questions. The first one, what led you to the field that you are in now?
Are we going in the same order, right? That's what you're saying?
Yes, yes.
Okay, well, I'm in the automotive industry, and what led me to this field specifically, I'd say that when I was a little girl, and in Puerto Rico, just for context, like most vehicles are, for some reason, they're not American vehicles. Most vehicles are imported. Toyota, you see Corollas everywhere. But somehow my family, we always had GM vehicles, General Motors vehicles. So my dream car has always been the Corvette Stingray. It was a white vehicle. I saw it every day going to school. And then as I was going into like my, fast forward, I'm doing my industrial engineering degree. And it was actually someone who I consider my mentor, who he asked me if I was interested in General Motors. At the time, General Motors only recruited for mechanical engineering degrees. So that's why I didn't even consider that was a possibility for me. But because I had that contact, it was just like, yep, this makes sense. Like now they're looking for industrial engineers, dream car. I always grown up with General Motors vehicles, and I had that interest of vehicles because it's something so core about everyday lives. Like I just feel like it has protected me in car accidents and like my family in car accidents. So I thought it was something so, it just tied so much in purpose and everyday life for people, just not only myself. So that's what led me to the automotive industry. And then for the career coaching side, it actually happened from something that it just came to me because as I was developing myself into like getting internships and co-ops while I was doing my degree, people started asking me about resumes and how did I get my internship. So I started educating other people. And then in 2017, during Hurricane Maria, when a lot of people needed new jobs, and unfortunately it was an emergency in Puerto Rico, the whole island, I saw the need that I needed to share how I got my internships and co-ops to others. And that was the beginning of my business in that site. So that's how it all started.
Thank you, Larissa. Now, please, Mongel, if you can answer our first question. What led you to the field that you're into now?
Yeah, sure. Actually, by degree, I'm an architectural engineer. And the way I got into that is I also moved from Ethiopia like about 8 years ago, almost when I was like about a year out from college, and I was almost ready. And I was like trying to look into like careers. And I always knew that I was going to be in construction, but I didn't know like all the logistics that came with it. And so actually, when I was looking to careers or majors to choose in college, I went to University of Kansas and Kansas State University 2 different times. And the representatives of SHPE and NSBE from those locations were actually the ones that introduced me to these to the different types of careers that I could do within construction. And architectural engineer came up, and I was like, yes, that's what I want to do. Like I was really interested in math and science growing up. Those were really my strongest suit. Like in SATs, math was my strongest one. Everything else, just let's not discuss. And then I realized that was like my strength, and I need to develop that. And so when I was researching, again, careers, I ran into architectural engineering. And then within architectural engineering, when I first started going to college, I had no idea. Still, like there was a lot of introduction that was happening. But as like I got introduced to the field even more, I knew that, okay, so architecture, okay, so design, okay, so this is like the route I want to take. And it wasn't actually the routes that a lot of my other peers took, but I just knew, like it just kept happening. And the way I stumbled upon electrical engineering was during one of my internships, they just kind of threw me into electrical and lighting design. And I was like, okay, well, like they were really short on staff in that area. And I was like, okay, well, like I really wanted to do mechanical first, but like, let's do it. And then I did it and I was like, this is it. I'm not going back anymore. And so I think it's just like you kind of stumble upon it and everything kind of falls into place. And so just trust the process and just keep going with that.
Thank you so much, Mangel. Now, please, Ivan, if you can answer our first question.
Sure thing. Well, on my end, my story, I would say what led me here was curiosity and confidence, and I'll explain why. So the curiosity comes because I was having this type of experience in internships and co-ops that most of the industrial engineers are expected to have, mainly in the manufacturing world. Having those experience under my belt, I knew something was missing and I wasn't like fulfilled as a professional. So that gave me a little bit of anxiety, to tell you the truth. So eventually I got this internship at a bank. And in this bank, I noticed that I was more inclined and motivated to do the work. So that's where the curiosity started, right? I felt more comfortable doing that type of work. And I said, I never knew that an industrial engineer could do this type of things. But the thing is that the part that gets lost in that route is that an industrial engineer is also an industrial and systems engineer. So the systems part get lost in translation sometimes. So in there, I started exploring and I met a few folks, about networking is so important in college, in real life, and in everything that you do, really, guys. It's important in everything that you do. So I started networking and I found about Accenture and what they do and about technology. And funny thing is that at that point, I felt that I was the least technology-driven person that I could think about in college. I felt so intimidated by technology, but that's where the confidence parts comes in. I felt so confident that if I could get my head around that, if I could just really focus and trust myself, I was going to learn it. So I started learning a little bit more about Accenture through my network. I learned about what they do and about their future, about the future vision of the different technologies and their different clients that they work in. And they sold me with the Walmarts, with the Walt Disney, with the Googles, with the Facebook, all of that stuff, right? I felt so inclined to try that type of business. And I just took a chance and I said, you know what? I had a few offers for more traditional manufacturing roles. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go and get it. I trust myself. And that's how I landed here.
That's a great story. Thank you so much, Ivan. And last but not least, Xavier.
So I kind of got into my field because I took a tech elective my sophomore year at the University of Illinois. Illinois being in the Midwest, there's a lot of grain. We do a lot of farming. Midwest is known for that completely. Illinois specifically for corn. And the class was humanity in the food chain, how we get from, getting the crops, getting the farmers to get everything, marketers buying it, and then processing it. And being an engineer, taking my first classes, my math and sciences, I wanted to know, how do you get from the plant to the table? Most companies don't actually, farm their own things. Coca-Cola doesn't go out there and get the corn to make Coke. Cargill is the intermediate that gets the high fructose corn syrup to make Coke and other products. And so I'm the middleman between the farmers and most of the products that at home. And Cargill is one of the 4 biggest companies that does that. And so the curiosity just kind of sparked there, how doing the engineering process, where in the process do engineers do the most work versus where is it someone else like a farmer, a businessman, a marketer, or something else. And Cargill is just an awesome place to learn all that. You get to see the different places we get all these ingredients from. We're around the world, we do different things. And I'm constantly on the phone call with, people from Brazil, China, other companies. And it's just an interesting place to be.
It sounds like it, Xavier. Well, thank you all for answering our first question. Now, our next question will be, what type of research did you do when you first were interested in this field?
My turn again, right? We're so what type of research? I think some of the panelists already kind of mentioned a little bit of that, which is talking to people, just networking. And I think Ivan was the one who said like just speaking with people who are in certain industries. And something that I did my research on, it was not only General Motors, I researched other companies as well. And Xavier said something that I thought was very interesting, that he said, well, this field is interesting. And then one girl said, well, electrical engineering was her thing. And I think it was part of, as I was talking to all the different people that I admired, like peers that they were in a place that I wanted to be in, or they were working in different like companies that I was like, I have never heard of that company. Like that sounds interesting. But then when I actually started talking to them, some of those companies, I was like, maybe that's not the one for me. So that type of research of like, I call it research, which is just getting information from real people who are doing that type of job. So when I did that, it's kept having conversation with people at General Motors. Specifically, I'm gonna like answer this question only with General Motors. Like it just made sense for me and I thought it was interesting. But I like to mention also that other companies were in the mix and I ended up eliminating. So I think I just wanted to add that in because that's part of research. It's like I call it, I assimilate this to one of my favorite board games, which I don't know if you guys, if you can tell me if you have played this game, which is Clue. That's just saying like you're just playing the game and you're just trying to guess who was I'm gonna get, but it's a murder, right? Like you're trying to guess who did it with what weapon, with what. So that's literally what I was doing when I was talking to all different people, was trying to guess, okay, where do I feel like it would be a good match for me? Where do I think it's interesting? And if it's not, and I no longer think it's that interesting, okay, exit out and then move on. So that was part of my research process.
Thank you, Larissa. Now, Bungel, please.
Yeah, it's very similar to what Larissa just said. I think for me, it was more about the peers, the people who were in different organizations with me, the older students that had like 2 or 3 internships in the bag, and what they liked, what they didn't like. Obviously, like what they loved, I didn't love as well. But getting that information out of them helped me minimize my options in the end, like when I was ready to officially career search. I think that was part of the research. I think unfortunately for me, I was in the market by the time COVID hit. And so a lot of companies were not hiring, a lot of freeze happened, but thankfully, like I already knew what I wanted, what city I wanted and everything. Obviously, I was still going to consider anything that came along the way because my options were so limited by the time I was ready. But I think considering the situation, everything, like I ended up in the best scenario possible. And I think that was possible because another thing is that not just my peers that were telling me things, like NSBE, SHPE, all of these organizations would bring representatives from these companies, and they would talk to us about their career, what the day in the job looked like, what a lot of the things, and God, that stuff stays with you. And so I think a lot of that combined really led me where I'm at today.
Wow.
I'm just gonna add a comment there because I'm like, it's what we're doing right now, yeah. Right? Just the panel, like literally this.
100%. Thank you, Angel, and thank you, Larissa. Now, Ivan, please.
Sure. Well, I alluded to this already, and the panelists have already mentioned it as well. It's networking, guys. You need to network. People, when we're in college, right, maybe that doesn't come intrinsic, like an intrinsic skill in our skill set, but that's something that needs to be developed. And sometimes we might roll our eyes and say, oh, networking, that's so boring, or that's so not genuine, right? But you cannot see it as you're forcing yourself. You have to see it as a conversation that you're establishing with someone else of something that really interests you. If you're not interested, that's where the genuine part gets lost, because if you're not really interested, that's when you feel that you're forcing yourself to do it. When you are interested in a topic, it's just a conversation. It's not networking, it's just a conversation for you, right? So I highly recommend to everyone to read the Weekend Language. That's one of the best books that I read in my life for communication and when you're doing networking, just to be relaxed. So networking was a really key part in the pre-COVID world. I used to go to a lot of info sessions, and in those info sessions, you can actually get a glimpse of what the company is like and what they do. So that's something that I used to do a lot in those info sessions and just take notes for a couple of years. And then when I was almost about to graduate, I was just reading all those notes from all those years that I didn't even remember that I took. So that was a really key part in my research. I used a similar approach to what Wongel mentioned, which was I leveraged the experience and the intellect of previous of friends that I met in college that were already in the industry. So that way I could see what their day-to-day and their lives look like. And it really interested me in the sense that they were doing something different every single day. And that's what drove me to Accenture. The part that I don't feel special in any way for this, I think most of us are the same way, is that I get bored easily. So I wanted that life of changing different clients and changing different technologies and changing different peers. So it's a really fast-paced environment, but I knew without being there that that was the perfect environment.
You mute yourself, Ivan.
Yeah, sorry for that. So I knew that that was the perfect environment for me. So that's how I got here. And if I could give you a golden nugget of wisdom, if I was in your shoes, something that I would do now with the knowledge that I have, I would research the company's financials. That's really important nowadays. You wanna join a place that is really stable, and I would definitely do that if I was in your shoes. Now, I didn't do that when I was younger, but now that I know what I know, I would definitely do that. That way you can at least have that peace of mind that you're joining in a stable, comfortable place. So that's it on my end.
Thank you, Ivan. And last but not least, Javier.
So I got three things. LinkedIn is always a big thing. I am actually considering law school. I want to go to law school. I talked to a lawyer that's been in the field 5 years down the line. She's a mechanical engineer too. I've talked to other lawyers too, just to get an idea of where I want to be in 5 years. I should talk to someone that's already there. Two, when you're looking at different internships and companies and things you want to do, maybe the company that you're trying to get to has requirements that you're not meeting yet. But if you work for a company that supplies them, or that company buys from that other company, hey, you're going to meet that company at some point. My company works closely with another company that I'm interested in down the line, which will probably be a law school kind of career. But I already talk to them on a daily basis. So if I want to get to that company and maybe their GPA requirement's too high, or maybe they expect too much experience, too much of this or that, maybe I don't have the right major, I could still end up in that position because I've already talked to the people that I'm in need of, the hiring managers, the recruiting staff and everything. But yeah, getting close in there is the easiest thing. Getting to know the different companies that are connected to the one that you want to end up at. If you want to work for NASA, find out who makes the parts for NASA. Find out what contractors work for NASA. Because if you jump into that company, you'll end up at NASA someday. If you want to jump straight into NASA, that's great and all. But are you ready for that level of competition? Are you ready for all those other applicants that are also going to be competing right off the start? Versus if you go to the other company, you get 2-3 years of experience and then jump right into NASA, you'll already have a senior position. You won't be taking that training that they do. You'll already have those nuggets of wisdom ready.
100%. I'm already I don't know about all the rest of the students, but I'm already taking a bunch of notes. So moving into the next questions, please. So I'm gonna ask these two right one next to the other because they're kind of related. So the first one is, what was the job market like when you applied? And if you're looking for a new job now, how are you handling it with the pandemic? Esa, please.
Sure. So at the time, I was 2017. Well, actually, the way that I actually got my full-time offer was because it was like a year before me graduating. So I had done like that. And this is what I tell people, like your last internship, that's such an important internship. You have to consider, and this is directly something that someone told me. So I'm passing it now to you guys. That last internship that you have right before you graduate, that summer before you graduate, it's a major internship to consider, because that's exactly how I got extended my full time. And it was awesome to just be like, I'm graduating and I have my full-time offer, I'm good. But I know that's not the case for a lot of people. So, and this is what I coach my clients now with the global pandemic going on right now. And what Xavier said, like LinkedIn is such a powerful tool to use, because if you think, because everybody here, I don't know, right? I'm just gonna say it because I'm gonna be me where I'm at. It's like dating. Like when you think about dating, you maybe do all the research that you can about this person, right? And let's talk about computers. If you're gonna buy a computer or a new phone, you do a lot of research around this computer that you're gonna buy, and you compare different computers or the different phones that you're gonna buy. And so why don't we do that same type of research for the companies that we're applying for, and including the people that are inside the company? So I like to say that research, when you go to LinkedIn, and if you don't have a profile, I encourage you to just go today. And if you have questions on how to do it and what to do, I'm totally open to continue the conversation after this workshop, or this discussion, because I've gotten people that they only created their profile, and then a couple of weeks in, recruiters are seeking them, because it kind of works like dating sites and things like that, where there's a match. So that's what I consider number one, because we're in a place where it's virtual mostly. Like so many, like we're right now we're virtual. If not, we would probably be doing it in person, or maybe I couldn't even be here right now. So there's pros and cons to what's going on right now, because if this event was going to be in Illinois, I unfortunately couldn't be there because I'm in Puerto Rico right now. So take see, I know it's different, but the pro is that now more than ever, people are online. So take advantage of that, because people are now more than ever willing to jump on a video call and go on Zoom and have a phone call, because everybody is glued to their emails and phones. Whereas when I was in the job market, basically you kind of had to have that people interaction in person and have someone like tap their shoulder to get their attention, because you could send an email and it would be 2-3 weeks, even more, or maybe they didn't never answered, because people weren't as committed or like glued to their phones like they are today. So that would be my advice. Just like use LinkedIn to your benefit. And now more than ever, I think it's almost 50% more users today than it was 2 years ago. Like that's how many people are now on LinkedIn, rather than when I was in 2017. So take advantage of that tool for sure.
All right, so I would definitely second what Elisa just said. For me, when I was ready, like I said earlier, when I was ready by, I graduated in May, so I was ready by like the summertime to get a job. So the job market during that time, especially when I was interviewing, like starting November, I even got an offer that got revoked because the pandemic hit. It's such an unexpected thing that happened. And I was planning on attending NSBE, and that also got canceled. And so there was a lot of things at stake there. But like I said, like the previous connections really got me where I'm at. The sessions I went to in college, the connections I made at those sessions, the conferences I went to, I like had at least 1 or 2 people like that I kept like on top of my list to keep contacting from each conference I went to, from each from each event, from each career fair I went to, because I knew that the day was going to come when I was going to graduate college and I was going to need a full-time job. And keeping those options available, like I don't know, like I could not say it enough, because for me, like I was keeping those options available because I wanted to have like multiple offers on the table by the time I was ready. But then by the time I was ready, a global pandemic hit. I was getting offers revoked, and such an expected thing happened. But still, like those things I developed helped me like a lot. And so keeping your contacts from the conferences that you go to, keeping contact from the events that you go to, keeping contact of your peers that graduate and have a job, not just for that, but you know what I mean. But also, and then one last thing I would say is, like she said, like LinkedIn was such a big part of trying to find employers, trying to find recruiters, trying to find employees that worked at a specific job. Because I would go into LinkedIn, I would look at the company I would want to, for example, work at, and then I would go into people who work here and then start contacting those people to try to get connections in that company, even if I didn't have any connection. And so the COVID really helped me like be more assertive in the internet world. And so I would say that like that's such a plus. And even after the pandemic, like the wave like went down, I got my offer, I got my job, I started working at Smith Group. My previous employers from like my different internships that even had my like offers revoked because of COVID, where I could now see them like looking at my LinkedIn to see if I was employed or not, because now they need a job, like they need employees back because they were able to stabilize their budget to hire another person. And so it's such a useful tool. And I would second what Larissa said.
Okay, I guess I'm next. I'll try to keep this one short, but these are so critical questions, right, that we need to ask ourselves. But I'll try. So what I'll do is I'm gonna give you a little bit of like motivational advice and more a strategic, actionable advice so you can take into action maybe after this call. Most of my peers have already said what I plan to say, but in a more actionable way. So the job market when I was looking for a career was in 2016. As I mentioned, that's that last internship, that last co-op is really key. But on my end, I didn't end it with my last internship or co-op. I decided, like I mentioned previously, I decided to just trust the process, as Juan Miguel said, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna do something totally different. So the job market was really competitive, guys, and it's really competitive. It was then, it is now, and it's going to be competitive forever. This is the card that life gave you. This is the card that you draw, so you have to play it. Don't dwell on yourself and think, oh, right now it's a global pandemic, I will not be able to find a job now. No, it's always been competitive, and it's competitive now, and it's going to continue to be competitive. So just be strategic about your approach, and this is where I want to focus a little bit more. So yes, we have LinkedIn, but now I'm gonna tell you how to maybe use LinkedIn a little bit more in a more actionable way. When you have your network, don't wait until you want something from your network. Be intentional and start reaching out to them before you actually need them for something. So if you know you want to reach out to that person somehow, start reaching out to them like a year before, wish them like a happy Christmas, happy Thanksgiving, start developing a conversation. Even if they don't answer, that message is saved right there. So reach out to someone before you need them. That's really key. Another thing that I would do is reach out other websites as well. You have Glassdoor. In Glassdoor, you can read the company's feedback. You can see how the employees feel about a company. You can see the salaries as well. You can use Indeed as well. So Indeed.com, you have Glassdoor, you have LinkedIn. So those are other tools that are at your disposal that you can leverage them. And that way, I guarantee you that if I was looking for a job, which I'm not, I'm really comfortable and happy where I am. But if I was, those would be the strategic place that I would be doing myself.
All right, so I absolutely agree with that point. I actually want to take it a step further. my mentor freshman year, he was a junior at that point. He didn't even work for Cargill back then. But the reason I found out about my company was because he started working there after he graduated. And he never told me once, like, hey, you should apply. But I saw he joined that company. I wanted to know what it was. And so I followed through, looked it up, did my research. And now I'm at that same company. And when he found out, he was like, how'd you find out about it? I was like, through you. He was like, I never even told you about it. I was like, but I've known you for so long. I wanted to know what you're up to. I wanted to know what everyone else is up to, instead of looking at everyone else going to Facebook and Microsoft. I want to know what all my mentors have been up to. And I saw that there was positions at your company. So I followed through. I could have asked them like, hey, do you have any tips on anything? But, I just took a chance. I got a call. I got an interview. And they were like, you seem like you're team oriented. We'd love to have you on the team. And, by the time I had the chance to even tell my mentor that I was part of the company, he found out through his supervisor. He was like, hey, did you know that you were used as a reference somewhere? And he was like, oh, I didn't even know. I was like, well, there you go. But yeah, try to get a grasp of what companies are there. And if you don't know which companies you want to work for, see what everyone else is doing. Not everyone's going to work for the big five of any industry. Not everyone's going to work for NASA. You have to look at, every position that you can anywhere in the city. I mean, no matter where you are, you're probably going to find industry. Just look around. There's engineers everywhere, even when you don't know it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much to all. So now to Laresa's request, she requested to switch the order. So now we're going to start with Xavier, then Ivan, Wongel, and lastly, Laresa. So how did you land your first job? And were there any specific projects that you worked on that made you stand out during your interview?
So my first job was last year in January with Cargill. I landed it just applying online. I did my research, like I said. And when it came time to the interview, I told them all the projects I had worked on in teams, and they liked it. The first major project they had me doing was in fire safety. I had to talk with this insurance company to make sure that our budget was meeting what they required for us to pay. We had to do on this dust collector, so there was a lot of dust whenever we make this certain form of starch. It's highly explosive. 3M buys a lot of it to make adhesives. It's a very small process, but if it were to ignite, it would take up half of our plant. And so it's right in the middle of our plant, very weird location, but this plant is 100 years old. So I had to make sure that I was taking into account that there was 100 years of paperwork before computers even existed to make sure that this project would go through. And the insurance company, wasn't letting me have it easy. Took months of phone calls. I didn't even know what kind of, I've never done any insurance work, so it was a real pain on my end, but I did a lot of learning through it. And now I could be on the phone all day with anyone, talking about stuff that I have no clue about half the time. But I did my research. I read all the papers. I made sure we updated everything. That building is, completely safely rated for level 2 electricity. And, when I interviewed for the full-time position, they asked me, so what'd you do during your internship? And that's exactly what I told them. They loved it. They said, that's exactly what we need here. Everything is, rated to a certain degree, but we need to update it. And there's no one here that wants to update it. Can you be our fire safety guy? And I said, absolutely. So that's what I do now for a living.
That's awesome. Thank you, Xavier. Now into Ivan.
Well, I landed my first role. I like to think of it as a role, as a career. I feel some type of way about the word job, but I got my first role really the old-fashioned way. I went to the career first. I did the long lines back then when you were not required to be 6 feet of distance apart. And I eventually got an interview. But before getting that interview, I had to do a lot of legwork in order to network with people at the career first, make sure that they knew me. And I honestly had to go through other professional experiences, co-ops and internships that maybe I didn't enjoy it as much to get to that point. Because as I always say, it's really important. It's as important to know what you don't like as it is of to knowing what you do like. So I already knew that I didn't like a lot of the other things of the experiences that I had. So that's how I got interested first. I did it the old-fashioned way. I prepare myself extensively, as Xavier said. You have to prepare. You have to. If you don't prepare, that's actually preparing for failure. So the old-fashioned way, car concept, all my resume, all my bullets, ready for all the answer, ready to answer every single questions. I Google like top 25, top 30 questions that you get asked in an interview. Really, the old-fashioned way. There's no secret sauce. There's no magic trick. That's how it was. And then eventually what I think it made me stand out once I got to the interview, it was my demeanor of making the interview feel more as a conversation than an actual interview. I remember the interview went so well that it felt like it was just a conversation of 10 minutes talking about my professional skills and the other 20, 30 minutes talking about basketball and about life. Really, to be honest, one of them, right? There were some technical questions, some technical interviews, because I had 4 back then. So I'm not gonna lie, there were some technical interviews, but the one that got me to the technical interview was the one that we were talking about basketball and life. That's how I got until that point. And the other thing that made me stand out was in my university, in Puerto Rico as well, there wasn't any consulting associations. And actually me and a couple of friends started one from scratch. So that actually caught the attention of Accenture really well, because Accenture is a consulting company. So that actually made me stand out. And I think that really gave me a little bit of an advantage over my peers. That's my story.
Thank you so much, Ivan. Now into Wongel.
Yeah, sure. So I would say what landed me my first job, which is with Smith Group, would have to be my past experiences interning. I was really assertive about finding an internship because I wanted to know at the end of the day when I was ready to graduate, I wanted to know what I was getting myself into. And so that one internship I talked about, that was actually like an 8-month co-op that I ended up getting, that they were understaffed with with electrical designers and lighting designers, and they kind of threw me in because they needed to, and I was their intern, so I couldn't, object. And so I worked at it. I was like, this is really nice. And I was really I was vocalizing, this is the career path I want to take. I vocalized that with them. I vocalized that with every other employer I was interviewing with from that point on. And so knowing what I really wanted it was very interesting because, like Yvonne was saying, it was a lot of conversation because I knew what I wanted. Like, I wasn't going to go for something else or, anything else. Like, I knew what I wanted. I was very specific in the job applications that I was filling out. I was very specific in the things that I was asking the employers. And so that became really attractive to the employers themselves because I knew what I wanted and I wasn't going to look any other direction in that specific moment. And in that sense, I was able to be a lot more picky because I had internships, because I had all these experiences under my belt, because I was able to tell them, this is my strong suit. This was not my strongest suit. I would not recommend, employing me in this area because I did it and I didn't like it. I'm not going to be like the most effective person. And that sounds a little bit off key, but it is the truth because they're going to see it down the line anyway. And so that's really how I landed my first job.
That's amazing. Thank you, Wongel. Now, lastly, Daresa.
Very cool. I like hearing people's stories. Like, that's part of why I love being a coach, because it's just very different for everybody. So I'm going to talk about the very, 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 very first co-op that I got, because I think we all kind of say, yes, those internships are super important so that when you are graduating to get that full time. But I like to take it back to when I had no idea what I wanted. I had no idea what I had to have on my resume. I had no idea what to do. And honestly, they were specific engineering classes that I was I did not like physics, electrical engineering, those classes. I mean, well, you're electrical, but I'm you definitely should be doing that job, not me, for sure. That's something that I'm never probably gonna do. So I agree with you, Wangel, saying like, what are the things that you really enjoyed? So I'd like to tell you like the first internship that I tried to get interviewed for. I went to the job fair, and I know you guys are having like virtual job fairs now. So I went to this job fair, absolutely having no idea what I wanted. I just went there to just like see how it worked. It was my first year as in college. I was a freshman, and I just went, no expectations, zero expectations. And I think I had my resume like super simple with like high school stuff even on it, because I was a freshman, so I didn't really have a lot. But when I went and approached this table, I just like, this sounds interesting. They were like doing renewable energy, and I just started asking a lot of questions to the recruiter. I started practicing the listening and then asking a follow-up question, and that landed me that interview. And I would love to say that I actually got a job from that, but that wasn't it. That was like what I call to say, that was my first pancake. I burned that pancake. Like, it was a really bad interview. I did not prepare at all. But then for my second one, this is actually how I got my first co-op. I was in a conference for the Institute of Industrial and Systems Engineer at the time. It was in Puerto Rico. So I had networked and I went to the conference, and what I did, because I was fueled, I was like, my last interview did not go well. I did not get a call back. So that's not going to happen to me, but I'm going to take advantage of this opportunity to just meet a lot of people, because I know that I don't have anything under my belt yet. I just need one yes. I just need someone to give me an opportunity, please. Because at the beginning, I felt like I couldn't pick and choose yet, because I didn't have anything yet on my resume that I thought was valuable to bring. But then I started networking, and then I reached out to certain people that I met. And then when I reached out and I said, hey, do you have internship or co-op opportunities upcoming for this year? And that first yes, like everybody else, like the major companies like Pepsi and like Boeing and all these major companies, they were all like, no, we already have our interns, like good luck next year, try again. And I was like, what am I gonna do? But then the company that gave me the opportunity was a really small consulting company, and they said yes, they had an internship open. And what I did was really learn the whole company from top to bottom. I researched everybody there. I just like spent like a full week just like staying up until 4 a.m. I watched other videos, and what made me stand out, even if I was being compared with people who were in their fourth, fifth year, and they actually told me that like, we don't recruit freshmen, we recruit people who are in their first, fourth, and fifth year almost to graduate, and they're specifically in Ohio State University and University of Cincinnati. And this is me from University of Puerto Rico, trying to come in and like showcase like what I can bring. And what made me stand out was that I knew really well their company, because I researched so much, and not only knowing them, but actually matching it to my like what I found interesting, and bringing that into the interview and saying like, hey, I read this on your website, and I saw that you guys made these projects like in this article that was out there. And let me tell you about a time that I did XYZ. The examples, guys, like it was like me working, because my first few jobs were like working in a furniture store, and I worked as a waitress like once. And those were the examples that I had at the time, but I knew them really well, and I brought them and connected the stories to what they were doing. And I said, as a waiter, I had to do customer representation really well. I need to take care of the customer. That's what you guys do. As like in a furniture store, I needed to sell, and that's what you guys do. So like bringing what I had at the time and connecting it to what they did, that's what made me stand out. And then just being myself, like bringing my personality to the room, because once I was really prepared, that's when I could really shine as myself. I was nervous. I'm not gonna lie. I was nervous, but because I was so prepared, it allowed me to shine through like my own personality. So that's what I would recommend. Prepare, do the research, but connect it back to you. Connect it to what you do have, and then bring that to them.
Oh,
Thank
there
you.
you go.
And Jada, I don't know.
Thank
Yep, there
you.
we go.
Yes, perfect. Thank you all for this great insight. Unfortunately, there's like another event right after us, so we will have to kind of wrap up into final thoughts. I would like to know any advice that you will give, any final thoughts you will give to the audience. And I would like the order will be Wangel, Ivan, Xavier, and lastly, Larissa.
As a final thought, I'd like to say you got this. Everybody went through this. Everybody in this panel, every employed person went through the process of trying to find a job, trying to figure out what they want to do with their lives. You guys are not alone. Jara has my information, so if you guys have any questions, you guys are welcome to shoot me an email. But other than that, keep going. This is the first step and you're going to do great.
I love doing this so much. Let's see if I can just say a few words. So first of all, and this is something that I'm going to keep hammering home, don't feel sorry for yourself. Never feel sorry for yourself. This is where you are right now. You just do your work and things will come and they will come and they will become a reality for you. So never feel sorry for yourself. And be really intentional and strategic to the people that you reach out to, the experience that you decide to pursue and to eventually develop and to add your resume. So don't feel sorry for yourself, be intentional and be really strategic with the experiences that you're planning to have. My contact is Ivan Claudio. So if you go to LinkedIn and you search for Ivan Claudio, I will appear. I will accept you. Just leave a short message that you attend this event. And thank you to everyone. Hopefully you got a lot of value out of this call.
My piece of advice, I mean, if you're a freshman, even better, but even if you're a senior, ask questions in the workplace, at school, anywhere you can. Opportunities are out there. We just don't seek them. You're too afraid your GPA is not good. I'll do it next semester when it's better. No, do it now while it's where it's at, so that when it gets better, you're already there. Because if you do it once it's better, it's already too late. Do everything now. Ask all the questions. If you have an internship, ask them, what money do we have for me to train on something else? The more money that they have, they'll put it into you, and then you'll do something for them that'll end up working out for the company. Ask as many questions as you can. Managers, professors, advisors, deans, anyone, even mentors. Just ask them what is available, what's going on, what can I do right now? Not next semester, not next year, not after you graduate. You want to do it right now. And if you want to contact me, I'll put my email in the chat right now.
I love that quote that Jesus Benitez, like the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and then the next best time was now, is now. I totally resonate with that. And I put down my own website that I have free resources there for a free resource, because yes, you want to do the company research, but I also will kind of remind you, it's important that you look into yourself as well. Like really get to know yourself, because anybody can speak about Accenture or like General Motors or like all these other companies, because they have their websites and their vision and their mission already out there. They know, the companies know who they are, but the only person that knows who you are and truly can speak for yourself, it is you. Like I would love to coach you and like be there in the interview, but I cannot. Like you have to become your best advocate for yourself at every stage of your career. I would love to say that it just stops at some point, but no, it's always going to be you. It has to be you, because you need to know what you enjoy, what you like, what resonates with you. And then when you look at the companies, it's going to be easier for you to understand which ones are the opportunities that you should go for. Early in your career, maybe you can't be as picky because you might not have all the experience yet under your belt. But at some point, you're going to be like Juan Gal and be like, yeah, now I get to pick and choose because I worked my way and I now have experiences. But really, always at any point, always look back to yourself. No matter who you're speaking to, even if it's me and you say, Larissa works at General Motors and she does this, always go back to yourself and ask yourself, is that something that I want to do? And if the answer is that maybe I'm interested, that's time for questions. Follow up with the people that you resonate with. Follow up with everybody who's in this call if you can. Find us on LinkedIn, talk to us, because we're here and we're for you and we want to help you. So that's what the complex, or not the complex, but when you think about why would anyone help you, it goes back to the simplest thing, that we all feel really good when we help other people, right? Like right now, I'm like ecstatic because I'm helping you guys out. So That is what you give people back when you ask for a question, when you are showing your interest. So don't feel like you're, like you're taking up someone's time, because most people actually want to help you. We want to pay it forward. That's why we're here. So I encourage you to do that. Find those people that you enjoy and your interests, ask those questions, and always look back to yourself. And then all the resources that I have, happy to help any way I can. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for the 4 panelists, and I really hope that everyone was able to take advantage and learn from these panels. So enjoy the rest of your evening.